Welcome to the Dojotalkpodcast. Please remove them shoes before entry.
Sam Master is here, and you still have not taken off your shoes.
Yeah. Living every day to define man's mission. Looking to the sky for divine transmission. Deaf man's vision makes the blind man listen. Eyes on the prize, this is blind ambition. Thank you.
Yo, what's going on, world? Welcome to another edition of the Dojo Talk Podcast. We are on episode number 75. We are on episode 75 because I have yet to put out 74. Or by the time you guys hear 70, or by the time you guys hear this episode, 74 will be out. But as of Monday, February 26th, I have not yet edited episode 74. But I'm going to do that as soon as I finish recording this episode. But it's been kind of a meh weekend, and then yesterday got even more meh. I was about to head out last night to go out with some coworkers. We're gonna hang out, watch the Walking Dead premiere, and I got about 2 blocks out of my neighborhood before I got pulled over and hit with a repairing order. So that was fun. So I had to go get that fixed this morning. But that's all taken care of. But it kind of just blew my mood. Let's offer the third brake light in my window, like the really small brake light in the window. Like nobody cares about that brake light, bro. Like that was a state trooper that pulled me over. Like it wasn't even like a regular cop car. So I was feeling some kind of way. But it is what it is. Like I went and got that taken care of. But so I just turned around. I didn't even go out with my coworkers because I didn't want to risk getting pulled over again. Because the road that the main road where I live by, a lot of camping cops over there. Didn't want to risk being pulled over again, so I ended up going back home, watching The Walking Dead at my own house. You know, it was a cool episode. I do feel like at this point I'm watching The Walking Dead, kind of just because I've been invested in it for so long that I just feel like I have to finish it. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, I'm spoiling everything. If you haven't watched the episode yet, you should probably cut this part off. But as we all knew, you know, Carl went on and kicked the bucket. Kind of sucked. I feel like Carl was kind of just, you know, within the last few seasons, kind of grown into his own. And then, you know, he gets sent over yonder. So, but you know, it was a decent episode. We'll see how this season turns out. I feel like The Walking Dead is kind of flatlined a little bit. Like I said, at this point, I feel like I'm just watching it just to watch it. But you know, premiere was cool. I'm definitely watching the rest of the season just because I've been invested in it for this long. But that's it. I don't want to ramble on about The Walking Dead. But you know, if you haven't watched it, it's a cool episode, and we'll see what happens the rest of this season. I guess before I get started, as always, got to throw in my plugs. As always, you can check out this podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. If you're on iTunes, please rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Emails can be sent to dojotalkpodcast@yahoo.com. And if you want to hit me up on Twitter, I am at Serial Sensei on Twitter. And we also have the Facebook group. So if you want to look us up on Facebook, just go in your search bar, type in Dojo Talk Podcast, and you will find us there. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Well, you know what? Before I get started, just to throw in some quick words of wisdom with me having to deal with this repair order and things like that. I realized something this morning. I'm recording this on a Monday, and luckily I'm one of like the few people on earth who I feel like has off on Mondays, which is great. Get to avoid the Monday blues. In exchange, I have to work Saturdays, but that is what it is. It doesn't really bother me that much. But wake up early, man. If on your off days, if you I know sleeping in good feels awesome, you know, getting that quality pillow bonding time in. But I'm telling you, man, if you can get up on your day off at like 6 o'clock and get your day started, you'll get so much done, man. You'll get so much more done. I'm recording this. It is about to be 12 p.m. Probably at least by the time 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock rolls by, I pretty much have done all of the adult things that I needed to do. And then I can just have the rest of the day to just kind of BS around. So just a quick tip, man. Wake up as early as you can on your days off. I promise you, it's worth it. You'll get so much more done. With that being said, let's jump into the show. So we got movie reviews, album reviews, and I'm throwing a recommendation at the end. It's a new segment I'm trying to get in on these solo podcasts. So we're going to talk about Black Panther. I'm going to talk about Skyzoo's album In Celebration of Us, Sylvan Lacue's Apologies in Advance, and I'm not going to give away the recommendation yet. You got to stick around to the end if you want to hear the recommendation. So we are going to start with the big dog. We're going to get the movie talk out the way, man. Note, spoilers are coming everywhere. So if you have not seen Black Panther at this point, first, shame on you. Second, skip this part. Because I might throw out some spoilers that you probably don't need to hear. So, I hope you guys can't hear this in the background. Dumpster people are outside being loud as ever. But let's get into Black Panther, man. For those who have been sleeping under a rock, or if you've been in a coma the last year or two, maybe you're just now waking up and you don't know what Black Panther is. Black Panther is the latest and newest Marvel movie, directed by Ryan Coogler, and it stars people such as Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, probably butchering her last name, my bad, Daniel Kaluuya, Letitia Wright, Angela Bassett. The list goes on and on. Forrest Whitaker, Winston Duke, a lot of great people, basically, in this movie. And I'm not really gonna go into the back history of Black Panther. I feel like if you're in the know, you know. Actually, you know what? That's not fair. Because I'll say a lot of people don't really, at least who I know, don't really know a lot about Black Panther. And to be honest, when I saw this movie, I was trying to remember what was my first exposure to him, and I can't pinpoint an exact thing, but I just remember seeing him probably around the time I want to say I was a teenager, probably in a comic book somewhere. I can't remember the exact time or moment that I saw him, but I just always used to think of him as he's the Black Batman, but kind of better. He's got the money, he's out there balling in Wakanda, he's got the technology. He was pretty much, I always used to think of him when I was a teenager, he was just the Black Batman. But back then, I never thought he was going to get a movie. I never thought he would be a character that Marvel would give a movie. Not, we all knew Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and all those guys would get movies. I didn't think Black Panther was anywhere near that list. But, hey man, here we are forever and a day later. Black Panther, man, he made his debut in Civil War. He lit the world on fire. And now he's got his solo movie. So let's just talk about it, man. I mean, the movie was fire. we can just start there. I can ease all tensions for anybody thinking I might have hated it. No, this movie was fire, man. I love this from start to finish. And just to throw out a quick money figure, last I checked, this movie has eclipsed the $700 million mark. So that's awesome. They're that billion is creeping, man. They're getting there. I think they might get it. To be honest, I didn't think they were going to hit $1 billion when this first came out. I had that debate with a couple people. I didn't think they were going to hit $1 billion, but it's looking like it's at least within reach. And I'll say it's well deserved, man. This movie for me, just kind of getting straight to it. I just enjoyed that this was a superhero movie, but it didn't feel like a superhero movie, and I mean that in a good way. The characters, I thought, were really, really well portrayed, and they had, really interesting backgrounds. They were very fleshed out. They were very human and just relatable, and I kind of felt that about the story. As we see T'Challa, he becomes the new ruler, new king of Wakanda, and he's just kind of trying to figure out what's the best way to run this kingdom now. How can I improve on what my father did, and how can I correct his mistakes, so on and so forth. So I just felt like there was a lot there was a lot going on other than, oh, we're just cool superheroes and we can fight and we can jump high and we're really strong. Like I felt like this had a lot more depth in my opinion than a lot of the other Marvel films, or really just like other superhero films in general. So yeah, I thought that was dope, that like you really got a chance to connect with the characters. Like you get to see T'Challa kind of, he becomes the king of Wakanda, but then like they have the scene where, he goes to visit his dad after he's in that like magical sand or whatever, and he's talking to his pops, and he's just kind of like he was just real human. Like he was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like I don't know if I'm ready. And his father is assuring him, like, you know what, like, you'll be fine. Like, I pretty much prepared you for this moment. And, you'll be good. And you get to see him go through that process of trying to gain that confidence that he can lead his people and, continue on the legacy, so on and so forth. So I thought that part was cool. Like I said, man, this was just a really good movie that just, like, it didn't feel like a superhero movie. It was just a really good movie that just happened to have superheroes in it. And I felt like it was really well paced. Like I think the movie was 2 hours and 14 minutes long, but I didn't feel like I was sitting in there for a long time. Everything kind of moved along pretty well. And like I said, I think all of the characters, like everybody in this movie, just did a really good job, man. I won't get into Killmonger yet. I guess I'll talk about Wakanda for a bit, man. Wakanda itself was really dope, how they kind of unveiled it, like when he's flying in their little spacecraft, whatever you want to call it. And, they put on this front like Wakanda, this third world country, but then when he flies there, you see how beautiful it is, you see how, like, advanced it is, and it was just really awesome. Like, the visuals in this movie were so good, man. Wakanda looked great. I even like I said, the scenes where when they drink the herb and they, you get to see like your ancestors. I like how that field looked when he saw his pops. Just visuals in general in this movie were amazing. It was very well shot. Shout outs to Ron Coogler, man. Dude's been on a roll directing movies, and he visually he knocked this one out the park. So visuals were on point. Pretty much I liked every character too, man. Like, of course I like the Black Panther because he's the Black Panther. Lupita's character, her being, kind of Black Panther's, I guess she was like his ex, or whatever, but she was awesome. I kind of liked her role in this movie. She was a big part of T'Challa's growth as like a king, and her trying to persuade him and get him to realize, like, listen, I know Wakanda, we've been in secret this whole time, but we can share a lot of what we have with other people. And meanwhile, T'Challa's kind of on this, Wakanda is the way it is. It's because we don't really mess with outsiders. This is how we stay strong. We kind of just keep within ourselves. And she's kind of like, that's cool and all, but there are other people that could really use what we have here in Wakanda, and we should probably help them out. So I thought it was her part was just really important in terms of helping T'Challa like grow as a person, as a king, and getting him to kind of see things from a different angle. Like I feel like all of the characters in this movie, like they all had a purpose. Like nobody was really there, like just to be there. Like everybody had a role, a purpose, as a reason why they were there. So like I didn't feel like anybody was wasting screen time, so to speak. So yeah, I thought her character was dope, man. Of course, Michonne, I'm gonna refer to her as Michonne. her character was awesome, man. She's out there on that general tip, the super loyalist to Wakanda, even after Wakanda falls to Killmonger, man. She stays loyal to the kingdom, no matter who's sitting on the throne. She was out there bodying people too, man. I love the scene where they were at like the casino, and she's out there catching bodies. Like Michonne was in here, she's putting in work, man. Her character was awesome, man. Just like that real she was just like that person in the movie, like, yo, don't mess with her, yo, she will give you that business. So like her character was really good, man. I just love to see how everybody like interacted, and just how everybody just kind of worked together, and how the interaction was between all of the characters. But I can't talk about characters without everybody's talking about him, and he was my favorite person in the movie. Michael B. Jordan is Killmonger, man. This dude, from the second he showed up in the movie, you just knew he was about to set it off, man. And I could go on a long time about the things, like the subtle things about this movie that I enjoyed. Of course, the Killmonger's very first like scene in the movie where he's at the museum and they're looking at the artifacts, and he's talking to the lady, and they're looking at the artifact, and he's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and take this off you. And she's like, oh, well, these aren't for sale. And he's like, oh, you thought your ancestors, bought this? Like, he was just so raw with it. Like, and there were a lot of moments in this movie, I think, that were very black, to say the least, man. It was really raw, but it was dope to see on the screen. But his character, man, I'm definitely a villain person. Villains for me can like make or break movies, or make me decide how much I like them or how much I dislike them. And coming into this movie, I wasn't too familiar with his character. In the comics that I have of Black Panther, like the main villains I pretty much see are Claw and maybe some other people running around, but I wasn't really too familiar with Killmonger's character. But I really enjoyed, man, like what he brought to this film. Man, I don't even know where to start. His character made me think of so much, because he's kind of like, he's one of those villains that's like I enjoyed that he was a complex villain. He wasn't just like, oh, I'm evil, I want to annihilate people. Like he had a lot more going on with him than just the simple, like the simple hoorah that we see in typical, superhero movies. Like he had a purpose and a reason why he was the way he was. And you see that, you find out that he is, legit a part of this Wakandan bloodline, but it was kind of like hidden from him. And once he finds out, he kind of figures like, yo, I should be able to take this throne. Like I have every right to. And in that way, you kind of sympathize with him when you kind of find out that, his pops gets killed, and people of Wakanda, or at least a few people of Wakanda, knew about him, and they just chose to leave him in Oakland. And so you kind of get why he grows up with this bitterness, because he feels this disconnect, like I should be a part of this culture, but you guys got me stuck here in America, in Oakland. And more importantly, which was a big like commentary on the film, of how to, we got, you guys are in Africa out here living a life, and meanwhile the people, across the world that look just like you, we're out here in America getting beat on, getting discriminated against. Like everything's terrible for us here, and you guys could really help us out, but you just been over there just kind of hiding. And so you get to see like why he kind of has this angst about him, and that way it makes him, and that way like, you kind of, I don't say relate, but like you understand where he's coming from and why he is the way he is, albeit his methods aren't the most humane, but like you understand him as a villain, and it makes him that much better of a character. His character really just made me think of a lot of things, particularly like the relations between like an African that's like from Africa, and as opposed to like African Americans that were just born and raised like in America, who don't have much of a connection like to their homeland, so to speak. Because I remember at first thinking like how he just kind of stood out in the movie, as to where like everybody from Wakanda, like they carry themselves different, and he comes in, he's real like braggadocious, he's real blunt, he's really forward, and it kind of reminded me of like my high school, where we had like it would be crazy. You would look in the lunchroom, and it was almost like segregation never left. But it was even segregation even between black people, as like people who were like African, like really from Africa, they had like their own group, and meanwhile the rest of us kind of had our own thing going on. And it was kind of weird how like it seemed, I ain't gonna say it was a beef, but there seemed like it was, at least back then, like some kind of disconnect. Like we all didn't, I guess, get along maybe as much as we should, and it was just we were different, kind of like we were the same but we were different. And I kind of just, I got that a lot from Killmonger and his relationship with T'Challa, and kind of like Wakanda in general, how like he's a part of that bloodline, but he's not the same as them. I just love how he came in and just took over. Like he came in, man, and I love how he gunned straight for the throne and took it. And I thought that just made him such a dope character. Yeah, man, he was awesome. Like he was such a good character. I could spend a lot talking about him. That might take up like this whole podcast, but yeah, man, Michael B. Jordan did an amazing job as Killmonger. He's easily one of my favorite Marvel villains in the cinematic universe, and I hope they find a way to bring him back, man. I feel like they never really technically show him die in the movie. Like you see him die on the, with him as T'Challa at the end, but they could probably bring him back. I hope so. He was a really good villain, man. I loved what was her name? Was it Letitia Wright? I think she was the one who played T'Challa's younger sister. She was awesome, just being like this brainiac genius of Wakanda, designing all the technology, designing his suit. I kind of like I liked her and T'Challa's relationship, as to where T'Challa's like this king, but I feel like she doesn't really, I'm gonna say she doesn't acknowledge it, but they still just kind of have that brother-sister relationship where she's like, yeah, you're the king, but you're kind of still my brother, so I'm still gonna pick on you, and we're still gonna have that dynamic. So I thought that was really dope. They had a lot of funny moments. So she hit him with the "what are those" when he was rocking the sandals, and then when she had him kick the suit. But yeah, I thought that was dope, man. I really, really, really enjoyed her character. Like I said, man, I enjoyed everybody in here, man. Winston Duke's character and M'Baku, he was a beast, man. Really funny guy, but he was also about that life. I feel like as of now, I call it a bark, but it's not a bark. You know the scene I'm talking about with the CIA agent. He made them be quiet. I feel like that's a thing now. But his character was awesome, man. Like I said, man, everybody in this movie was just. I even enjoyed Claw, because I didn't watch a lot of. I've waited a ton of trailers for this movie. So like when I first saw the original teaser, I didn't even know that was Claw. So I thought that was dope that he was at least in the movie. And I enjoyed his character too. He was kind of a bit over the top, but like I still enjoyed some of his humor with him talking about, I got my SoundCloud mixtape, all that craziness, and him making it rain after he blew up the briefcase and all the money came out. So I enjoyed his character while he stuck around before Killmonger sent him over yonder. But yeah, man, like this movie was just, it had a really just good story. It like I said, man, the best way I can put it is it didn't feel like a typical superhero movie, but that's why I liked it, man. It was just a really good movie with really great characters that just so happened to have some superheroes in it. But there were so many, like I said, it would take me forever to dive into everything in this movie. But there were just a lot of subtleties to like black culture and like black history and things like that you pick up throughout the movie, and it just made it like that much more enjoyable. So yeah, man, I think this movie is really important, man. I'm not trying to be one of those people like, oh, it's so much more than a movie and it's gonna change the world, and I'm not gonna go that far, but I think it does definitely hold some kind of importance to it. Me growing up, there weren't a ton of superheroes who I could point to that look like me, and I know a lot of people don't think representation matters. It's funny, I always hear that from people who are represented, but that's another story. But no, it definitely does matter, man. it definitely matters. You feel more involved, and I don't know. I can't really explain it, but it definitely matters. Like I said, when I was growing up, the only black superheroes I remember were, we had Blade with Marvel. We had Spawn, who wasn't really a hero. He's more like an anti-hero. I think like the first black superhero I even remember was a comic book called Shadowhawk back in the day that my older brother had, which I actually just ordered online because I wanted to go back and read it. So shout out to Jim Valentino. I think he's the writer, original creator of that. But yeah, man, like there weren't a ton of us, at least who were like popular. You had like Black Man and Meteor Man, but it was nobody who had like the hype of a Black Panther. Not even like Storm from X-Men, I could say, and she was awesome too. But Black Panther, I think for this generation, I think it's great that kids from this generation, I have 2 little brothers, and they'll be able to grow up and they'll have like a mainstream black superhero to look up to, and I think that's really awesome, and I think hopefully that'll inspire some people, and I think also this movie will put to rest this whole myth that people of color can't sell movies, or like minorities in general movies don't sell. Like that narrative's been trash the whole time. But now, like, you can't deny it. Like 700 mil, and this movie hasn't even been out for like 2 weeks, or I think this is going on the 2nd week, and like the movie's still keeping steam, still getting ticket sales. Like I said, it's 700 mil. You can't deny it anymore. So I hope this does maybe start some kind of shift as to where maybe more minorities, will get a chance, and not even just like superhero movies, just movies in general, that we'll get other stories being told that haven't been really like pushed in the mainstream all that much. Because I think a part of the reason this movie sold, aside from everybody who's black probably was out there supporting, but I think we're in this age now. It's definitely the creator's age, but I think a lot of people are just yearning for something different than what we've been getting for these last, decade, 2 decades, however long you want to put a timestamp on it. Like, I think people are just yearning for something different, and this was just a breath of fresh air to see. That was something not so typical of what we normally get from a superhero movie. So yeah, man, this movie was awesome, man. I might do another podcast. I'm thinking of, because there's a lot more I think to talk about with this movie, but I don't want to spend the entire time. I'm almost at the 30-minute mark now talking about this movie, but like it's so much more to dive into. But I saw it twice, man. I saw it Thursday on the opening day, and I saw it again that Saturday, and it was well worth it both times. I even enjoyed it better the second time. I will say real quick in closing, as much as I like the movie, I do want to be fair. Just a few things I wish, just a few minor gripes I have with the movie. I kind of wish we could have saw more of like Wakanda, and I mean like the life of like the everyday person, which I get might have been hard to fit in that story, but because I feel like they had the scenes where T'Challa and Lupita were like walking through Wakanda through the streets. But I kind of just wanted to see more of the area, more of the people, more of like what those people were doing. I feel like it was there, but we didn't get to see it like enough. It was, you got the gist of what it was, but I kind of just wanted to get maybe like just a small, deeper look into it. And my only other gripe with this movie, man, and I kind of have this gripe about a lot of superhero flicks. Maybe not all of them, particularly. I have the same gripe kind of with Batman a little bit to a lesser degree, but the CGI for the fight scenes bothered me just a little bit, only because and I always use Batman and Black Panther as examples because of like their background, their character backgrounds. These are 2 dudes who are like master martial artists. Like, these are 2 dudes that can scrap. And I feel like the fight choreography I feel like the CGI kind of took away of what it could be. Like, I would feel like we really should have saw T'Challa like legit like on some martial arts, Tony Jaa, something wild like that, man. Like that's the only thing that kind of bothers me with a lot of superhero movies in regards to superheroes that have like martial arts background. It's like I feel like that's the one thing they don't always hit the nail on the head with. Like, I want to see that final scene with T'Challa and Killmonger. Like, that just should have been some legit like martial arts choreography. Like, these two dudes should have really been scrapping it out instead of just kind of having this CGI fight. And then don't get me wrong, like a lot of the action sequences in this movie were really dope. Like I said, anything Michonne was in, she was catching bodies. And of course the war scene when the two tribes were clashing, and like Killmonger and the people who were on his side were clashing with the other soldiers. That scene was dope. Killmonger scene, of course, when they fought for the title of Black Panther, those scenes were good. But I just feel like T'Challa should have really been throwing hands and feet, man. Like, and I kind of have that gripe about American films in general. I don't like the way they edit their fight scenes. That jump edit stuff, man, we gotta cut that out. Like, we gotta cut that out. I guess I'm spoiled because I grew up watching like martial arts flicks, and I feel like in Asian cinema I feel like they just do an overall better job of shooting fight scenes and making them a lot more fluid. But that's just a minor gripe. It's not that the action was bad. I really wanted to see Black Panther on like some legit martial arts type stuff. But like I said, those are just minor gripes. Other than that, man, this film was amazing. I've been trying to figure out where I put it on my Marvel list. It's pretty high up there. I would say easily top 5, possibly top 3. The only movie I would probably put above this would be Winter Soldier. But either way, man, this was an amazing movie. I'm so glad Black Panther got his just due. A lot like Wonder Woman, they were characters that I really enjoy, and I was afraid that somehow their movies would fall flat or short of expectation. But this hit it out the park, man. I loved it, every second of it. So definitely go see it. Take your kids to see it. Take everybody to see it, man. Go see it twice. Like, this movie needs to be supported. It deserves to be supported, man. They hit it out the park with this, and I'm pretty sure whenever a sequel comes, man, I'm in there. I'm definitely in there. So shout outs to everybody involved in that movie. Black Panther was a hit, to say the least. Everybody did a phenomenal job, and yeah, I can't say enough. I can't say enough good things about this movie, man. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and like I said, I might have to do another episode on this because there's so much more to talk about in terms of like it's. Like I said, a lot of just subtle things and references to black culture and that whole connection. It was a lot of little things to ingest, but I don't want to spend the entire podcast talking about it, so I'm gonna have to back off. But at the end of the day, man, Black Panther, that joint was fire, just straight fire. So go see it, definitely go see it, without a doubt, go see it. As soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go buy your tickets and just go see it, man. It's an awesome movie. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Black Panther, and I'll end up getting carried away if I keep talking about it. So we're gonna move on to the next topic. Let's get into some music talk. First album on deck, Skyzoo, In Celebration of Us. This is a follow-up, I believe, to Peddler Themes, which is an EP that came out, I want to say, towards like the end of last year. Can't remember. I know it came out last year, I want to say, but that was a project for me. It was kind of like I liked it, but it was not a lot really stood out, to be honest. But I'm still a big Skyzoo fan. As I've said before, I know I've reviewed some of his projects before. He's probably like one of the most consistent artists that I've listened to in quite some time. It's very rare his projects are a miss for me. So I was still looking forward to this, and it did not disappoint, man. I was, especially like I said, I thought Peddler Themes, in my opinion, was kind of lackluster, but this was a great pick me up from that. So I'll just get right into the album, man. Just give a shout outs to a few producers on here. We had is it Art Mitchell or Artie, Arte Mitchell, Illmind, who he's worked with before, Apollo Brown, who he's worked with before and has a full-length project out with, Tuami, it's Tuamie, sorry if I'm butchering your name, Mark Infinite, or Mark Infinite, so I'm probably messing up everybody's name, Cardiac, and Siege Monstrosity. Production on this album, pretty, typical of what you would hear Skyzoo rap over. Very New York, very East Coast. Like I said, you got some head nodders, you got some bangers, you got a few smooth cuts. But it's very well done, done production. Like it's boom bap, but it's not like that. It doesn't sound like dated or anything like that. It's still like a fresh sound. But it's like that typical just East Coast sound, but it's still refreshed. It still sounds new. Nothing really too crazy. I mean, there are some beats on here that I do absolutely love, but I feel like the star of the album is definitely Skyzoo, but the instrumentation and everything as far as production on this album is definitely very well done. But I feel like Skyzoo is definitely the star of the show. In terms of content, I mean, if you listen to Skyzoo before, man, I feel like a lot of his albums, especially as of late, like they have a kind of like a narrative to them. Maybe not necessarily concept albums, but there's like an underlying like theme or narrative or kind of story that's being woven into the tracks, and definitely you get a strong vibe on that from this album. Literally, like with the very first track, it starts off with, for one, the first track's like 8 minutes long, kind of a long intro track, but it sets the album up really good, where you get to hear kind of the story, or the skit of basically Skyzoo's father. So the skit takes place literally before Skyzoo was born, and it's about Skyzoo's dad, and he's kind of hanging out with his friends, and he's telling them how like he's about to get out of the street life because he's about to have a son, and like he might hit a few more licks, but he's about to get out the game because he doesn't want his son to be around this and be around this life. He wants him to stay on the right path, so on and so forth. So I thought that skit was really nice to kind of set the album up, and then it just kind of goes right into it, and really kind of in a similar vein to Music with My Friends, but kind of different. I feel like this album is almost like a autobiography / kind of just like a story. It may be specific to Skyzoo, but I think it's something that anybody can grab something from. He just kind of gives you this narrative of him, him growing up, maybe kind of chasing the allure of the street life and realizing that's, probably not the best thing to do. But you also get moments of, him talking about, police injustice and racism. In particular, there's a track called Hoodie Season, which I'll get into, which I really, really enjoyed, of him kind of talking about using the hoodie as almost like a symbol and kind of what that's been representing in Black America and things like that. But like I said, it's just a real kind of like personal, introspective, but also really observatory. Just kind of look at him growing up and the things he's noticing in life and different routes you can take, and which route is the best route, or what can I do to make it, or if I do this it might get me in trouble. It's like I said, it's really he kind of attacks it from all angles. Like I said, it's like his childhood and him growing up and like the lessons he's learning along the way and things that like his father has passed down to him, and kind of like that whole dichotomy. But like I said, he attacks it from all angles, man. So I really enjoyed the content of the album. Like I said, just a lot of street talk, but like I said, a lot of it is just him just observing his surroundings. Lyrically, if you know Skyzoo, he's a wordsmith. There's no really other way to put it. He's one of those dudes I can say though, like when he raps, a lot of times I have to go back and listen. Just it's the way his rhyme structure, I think, is really different than it's not many people I can think of that like just rap, just the way he raps. Like there are a lot of lyricists, but there's a certain way his rhyme structure that I just think is just really different and unique to him. And a lot of times, a lot of what he says will go over my head. I'll have to go back and like read his lyrics to kind of catch what he's saying, because he has a lot of clever punchlines, but he doesn't deliver them in like a punchline way, if that even makes any sense. But yeah, man, lyrically, he's not slacking off. Like lyrically, if you've been a Skyzoo fan, you know how he gets down, and he doesn't slack at all on this album. Like I said, lots of content, lots of dope lines. So I guess yeah, it's not even really a lot to get into. Like if you're a Skyzoo fan, you know what he does, and this album is just a continuation of what he's been doing this entire time. I do enjoy though, there were a few moments in this album where he has some switch ups, and I'll go into those when I start talking about some of my favorite tracks. But I did enjoy because he's definitely one of those dudes that lyrically he kind of has that flow where he just kind of gets in the pocket and just kind of goes. But he had a few moments in this album where he switched his flow up, and I really enjoyed that. I wish he would do that just a little bit more, just to add a bit more diversity to his albums. I think it's a good look when he kind of showed that he can do different flows, he can experiment and do different things lyrically and still sound good at it. Like it didn't sound forced or like it wasn't natural. Like he's just that talented of a lyricist that he can pull things like that off. So I thought that was dope. I thought that showed a bit of growth and just good experimentation on his side as an artist. So that was pretty awesome to hear. I guess I'll just start going into some favorite tracks. The opening track, Everybody's Fine, which I mentioned earlier, kind of like the intro track that kind of sets the whole thing off. Yeah, a lot of this track is him kind of like celebrating things that happen in the hood, but also talking about kind of like the downfalls and pitfalls of things that can happen when you're growing up and you might be around the wrong people. But he just kind of covers that whole aspect of things to celebrate in the street life and other things that may not go so well. I love the line, fists in the air over mistakes, or fists in the air over the jakes, being vision impaired holding a tray, and that tray pound lift up the fear from out his face, and you vision impaired over awake. Like those, yeah, that was a really dope line. I thought I just kind of like his way with words and how he just kind of described like losing somebody to is that vision impaired over awake, about kind of like, I don't know, it's just the way he worded it. It was just dope, man. I love the way he kind of just words things. Like I said, his rhyme structure to me just is really different than everybody else. But there's a lot of imagery if you can like piece together what he's saying. But I thought that's a good opening track to the album, albeit it was a bit long, standing at 8 minutes. But I get the point of it, so I'm not too mad at that. Sound Like, that's another good joint up here. I love the Illman beat. Illman had a lot of couple of dope beats on here. Actually, he did a good, I want to say a good decent chunk of this album. So shout out to Illman. I love the beat on that one. Track Love Is Love, that's probably like my favorite beat. Definitely a head nodder, produced by Cardiac. I kind of like how Skyzoo was just kind of flipping the word love around, and just describing it in like these different scenarios, and just the way he flipped it, just his usage of the word love and the things that he was comparing it to. I love one of the lines was kind of towards like the end of the song where he said, "Love me like my son on the way when I see his charm, and by the time you hear this, he'll be in my arms. Same arms forever here where he belongs is the same arms that I'ma bear if you mean him harm." So I thought that line was dope. But like I said, Love Is Love, definitely a track where he, like I said, just a lot of good uses of the word love. I just love the way he flipped it and used it. The second half of this album definitely has some really good cuts on it. Following Love Is Love, Black Sambo. And this was one of the tracks where he kind of flipped his flow a bit different than what we would normally hear from him. So that was probably why this was one of my favorites on here. Like I said, I just like how he kind of switched the flow up on this one. He made it a bit different. And I like that beat too. That beat knocks pretty hard. So don't have who produced that one in front of me, but I love the beat, and like I said, I just love how he switched his flow up on that track. I like Parks and Recreations. Really, I like the song. Only it kind of just reminds me of another song. One of my favorite albums is Dirty Acres from Cunning Linguist, and they have a song called The Part, and these two songs have that same sample in the beat. So just hearing this reminds me of that album, and that kind of alone just kind of made me enjoy it. This is really peaceful and serene kind of beat. So I definitely enjoyed that one just because it just brought up memories of that Cunning Linguist album. Stick Up Tape from Menace. Pretty much the track is about what you would think it would be. Of course, using the Stick Up Tape from Menace to Society with Kane and O-Dog in the store. And I just kind of like the content in the song where he's just kind of talking about, like, listen, if you're gonna do your dirt, get out, don't get caught. kind of that whole thing. So I really enjoyed that track, and like I said, I just like how he kind of tied the Menace into Society theme with that track. I think that fit really well. Like I said, the back half of this album, got some gems on it. Oh man, I skipped Crown Holder. Crown Holder is another dope joint in here. Really kind of like braggadocious track. I love that. I don't remember the name of that sample, but if you hear it, you'll instantly recognize it. Anytime I hear that sample, it's a good thing. So Crown Holder, that was towards the beginning of the album. That's another dope track. Another favorite on here this might be my favorite song, man. I really enjoyed this track, Hoodie Season. And in this song, he kind of, like I said, he uses the hoodie almost as like a symbol, and kind of like what it means to different people. And I guess to make sense of it, how certain people may see you dressed in a hoodie and they think a certain way about you, like, oh, you might be dangerous. But in his eyes, a lot of the song, he refers to the hoodie as like a cape, and it's like a form of protection, and it keeps him safe from everybody, so on and so forth. I really enjoyed, like I said, just how he brought the hoodie to life. Like the hoodie became, it's more than just a piece of clothing. Like he said, he looks at it like a cape, but the rest of the world kind of looks at it like you're wearing this. Oh, you're a thug, you're this, you're that. So I really, really just kind of enjoyed how he personified the hoodie. And I guess it kind of struck a chord because I wear hoodies a lot. So I really, really, really enjoyed that track. Like that's probably that and Love is Love are probably like my favorite cuts on here. And the closing track, Honor Amongst Thieves, kind of like the way the album starts. The album ends with another long track. This one's like 8 or 9 minutes long, but it closes out the album very well. And in this track, kind of in a similar vein, where the intro track is his dad talking about how he doesn't want Skyzoo to, be in the streets, so on and so forth. Like, he wants to raise him right. And then the last track, Honor Amongst Thieves, the album closes, I think specifically on the second verse, where Skyzoo kind of describes being in the streets and witnessing certain things. In particular, I think he said like he witnessed either his friend or somebody he knew shooting somebody, and then he starts to think like, well, maybe I need to pack a gun because clearly it's not safe around here. And his dad kind of has to sit him down and let him know, like, listen, like, I don't want you to get involved in that, because kind of once you get started in that kind of life, like, there isn't any turning back. Like, once you're in, you're in. And, you don't want to run around here having to pack heat. It's not a good feeling. You might think it'll make you feel like a man or whatever, but, it's a lot that comes with that. And he really goes into detail, I thought. Just kind of describing, and not even just about the gun, just about life in general. Like, these certain decisions that you make, like, these will impact you, and you're gonna have to deal with these consequences sooner or later. So also the beat on this is really dope too. But yeah, I thought it was a good way to like bring the album full circle and kind of wrap up the story of kind of like everything he just learned like growing up. And then at the end, like once the song finished, he kind of just goes into this long talk, kind of just describing his childhood about how he grew up with his moms and his pops, but they didn't live together. So he would spend some time with his mom and learn certain things from her, and then he would spend time with his dad and learn certain things from him, so on and so forth. So I thought that was a really just good way to close the album. Like I said, it just kind of completed the narrative of him describing just his experiences just growing up in his neighborhood and all the things he witnessed, and just how all those situations kind of molded him into who he is now. So I thought that was really dope. So yeah, man, I don't really got much else to say about this album other than Skyzoo's got another notch on his belt, man. I actually ordered my physical copy of this last week, so I'm still waiting for that. But I would say, yeah, if you're a Skyzoo fan, you'll definitely enjoy this. If you're not a Skyzoo fan, I don't think this is a bad album to start with. This will definitely give you a good sense of what he's about, in terms of like his style, topics you can expect to hear from him. Like I said, if you like East Coast New York rap, if you like lyricists, it doesn't really get much better or much more consistent than this. And Celebration of Us is another just really good project, and his line of albums that, like I said, he doesn't have a lot of slips, man. He got like this, Music with My Friends, Dreams Deferred. If we go to his mixtapes like JJ versus Theo, The Great Debater, like he just has albums or projects after projects after projects of just a lot of quality work. And this is just another one in the discography. Definitely one of my favorite artists, favorite lyricists in hip hop right now. So shout outs to Skyzoo. The album is called In Celebration of Us. I will leave links down below so you guys can cop the album, listen to it, so on and so forth. Definitely support good artists, support good music. But yeah, man, album's dope. Really enjoyed it, and like I said, this is one that definitely grew on me. The more I listen to it, the more I've been enjoying it and going back to it. So Skyzoo and Celebration of Us, give that a listen. Definitely go check it out. Next album and last album that I will be talking about today. Album is entitled messed that all up. Apologies in Advance, from Sylvan Lacue. I want to say, I don't remember if I've reviewed a Sylvan Lacue project, but I know I've at least mentioned him on this podcast because one of his albums definitely made like a top 20 of mine. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned him before on this podcast. I could be wrong, but quick background on him. He used to go by the name Quest, and then within like his last couple of projects, he switched over to his real name, Sylvan Lacue. If you listen to his album Searching Sylvan, which is probably, that to me, I still think that it's like his best work, and a really great album if you want to start getting into him if you're not a fan of him. Searching Sylvan is an amazing album, and that album is literally like a story of like how his career has gone and how he had that whole situation with Jermaine Dupri back in the day and how that kind of fell through. So if you've never listened to Sylvan Lacue, go listen to Searching Sylvan first. Like I said, it'll literally give you for one, it's literally probably his best album, best project that he's ever put out. But you also you get his story in terms of how he got in the game and things like that. But it's also just an awesome, amazing project. So go give that a listen. But so he had Searching Sylvan, then he had Far From Familiar, and this is the follow-up to Far From Familiar. And I kind of enjoy how his albums they're literally like a story. Like, I feel all of these albums I think are connected in some kind of way. Like Searching Sylvan was his start in the game. Far From Familiar was now he's in the game, but he's trying to figure out kind of like how to maneuver it and dealing with, the pressures of I'm in the game and I'm trying to be known, but it's not as easy as I think it is. And, he's having a lot of self-doubt, things like that. And then we move on to Apologies in Advance, which is kind of a continuation, I would say, of that, but a bit more specific, not so much, kind of is specific to his career, but I think it's a lot more personal. It's specific to him. It's just like being a person and the struggles of trying to just become a better person. Apologies in Advance is definitely, I would say, like a concept album. There are a lot of skits that play throughout. The album plays out almost like an AA meeting, but it's an AA meeting except not dealing with like addictions, more so just dealing with like the human spectrum of emotions, things like self-doubt, like self-doubt, depression, not knowing if you're doing enough, struggling creatively, struggling with friends and family and trying to balance that, struggling with love, and not even just like love of others, like self-love and caring about yourself, things like that. So I think the content of this album, I think overall, this album did a really good job of kind of just displaying that wide range of emotion. I think this project would resonate with a lot of people, especially nowadays where I feel like mental health is becoming a thing that's being discussed a bit more seriously than it has in the past. And I think this album really drives that point home. So I think content-wise, this album will be able to reach and touch a lot of people. Production-wise, let me give a few shout-outs to the producers. Not many that I saw. Sylvan Lacue himself actually did a pretty big bulk of this project. Other producers I saw were, I think this is Sky Hutch, Skhye, Sky Hutch. I don't know if this is Bjornick or BJRNCK, and Wishlade. I'm sorry, I'm butchering everybody's name today. But production on this album for me, this is the only thing that kind of was a hindrance, and I feel like the production on this album is kind of a blessing and a curse. Topically, content-wise, this album is pretty heavy. Like I said, you're dealing with like all of these like just different facets of emotions. And like I said, you have these skits where it's pretty much like an AA meeting. People have like a round table just discussing how they deal with things like, guilt tripping themselves when they feel like they're not being productive, them trying to figure out how they can be the best person, them trying to figure out how to balance friends but still take care of themselves. And like I said, things like self-doubt, being a perfectionist, like just all of this wide range of emotion plays throughout this album, and the production kind of fits that. But I think the drawback is, as much as the album fits the album, it fits the content, I think the production kind of has like this one track, in my opinion. It's like a lot of this album sounds really kind of like low, really somber, really, like I said, almost like it's just really low and heavy. But like I said, it fits the song, but I feel like there's not, in terms of like mood switch ups, there's not a ton of mood switch ups. Like this album for me, kind of due to the production, this isn't something I think I could listen to like every day. I would kind of have to be like, it's a moody album. I would have to be in the mood to listen to something like this. Definitely like if you're in maybe like a somber, maybe like a reflective mood, this would be something you would throw on, but not necessarily something that you're gonna bang in the car every day. This is definitely, I feel like, more headphone music. If you're at home and you just, like I said, you're in kind of like that reflective mood, this is something to throw on. So like I said, the production, I think it's like a gift and a curse. It works because it fits the songs, but the album just, like I said, for me personally, it doesn't switch up enough production wise, which is, I guess, kind of hypocritical, because if you've listened to any Sylvan Lacue projects, he's definitely known to do beat switch ups throughout his songs, and that definitely carries on. And this album, a lot of the songs, the beat will start off one way, and then by the time he gets to the second or third verse, the beat will completely switch up to something different. And I enjoy that from him. I actually like when he does the beat switch ups. But like I said, I just think a lot of the album is just really somber and just like really low key. But then again, that could be what he was going for. And like I said, it fits the content of the album, so I get it. It's just like sonically for me, I'm not gonna say it gets repetitive, but like I said, I kind of wish the mood switched up just a little bit more. But that's like my main hindrance about the album. it's kind of like I said, the production fits, but I wanted a bit more variety. But other than that, man, everything else on this album I thought was executed really, really well. And for anything that the production may lack, I think it makes up for in content, which I said, like, it's really heavy, it's really personal, but I think it's something that a lot of people will be able to relate to. And that way, I feel like this album will probably reach a lot of people, because like I said, mental health is definitely becoming an issue that's being talked about more, and I feel like this album, like, it encompasses that in a very well way. Like, lyrically, I wish I had more quotes from this album. I didn't get a chance to listen to this as much as I wanted to. There was so much music that I've been checking out for like these last couple days or weeks, I should say. And I wanted to make sure I talk about this. I didn't want this album to take the back burner, because I think people should definitely check it out. But yeah, I wish I just had more lyrics, because he's definitely a lyricist, and I think he does a really good job of conveying his emotions, and I just think it's really, really relatable. It almost, in a vein, for anybody who's a Joe Budden fan, like Mood Music 3, this album, and they're not similar at all in terms of like rapping style or anything like that, but just as far as like the personal aspects of like Mood Music 3, kind of like reminds me of that on this, where like it's really open, it's really vulnerable. It's really him just kind of laying it all out there about how he deals with things like depression and self-doubt, and just trying to make it through his day-to-day, and questioning his decisions on whether he should do this or that, and questioning his motivations, whether he's doing the right thing or should he choose a different path. But yeah, man, I think he does a really good job of conveying all those emotions, and makes the album really relatable. I especially feel like if you're a creative person, I know that a lot of tracks on this album hit home for me, with a lot of the topics that he talked about. So I guess really I'll just go into some of my favorite tracks. So let me scroll on down here. Head Games, and a lot of these tracks you can kind of get what they're going to be about pretty much based on the title. But Head Games, pretty much him talking about like the different battles that he has going inside of his head in terms of like directions he should take, things he thinks he should do. Like I said, as that track is somebody who kind of lives inside of their head to a fault. This track definitely kind of hit home for me. I also love the track Selfish. I think this track is one of the most important tracks on the album in terms of talking about self-care and how sometimes it's good to be selfish. Like, you need to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. I love the line where he talks about like his mom called him, telling him he needs to eat more fruits and vegetables and things like that. But this track also hit it really hard home for me. Self-care has been a big thing for me within like the last couple of years or two, with like health issues that I've had, and how I've kind of been like reversing those and kind of turning things around for the better. So that track really hit home for me. Coffee Break, that might be one of my that might be a favorite. I don't know if that's the number one, but it's definitely up there. I love the honesty in this track, and him kind of going into his motivations for making music. And he starts off kind of feeling like he's making music just to like chase the fame, the glamour, and the glitz. And then the deeper he gets into it, he's realizing like I should be using my platform for like a real purpose instead of these selfish motivations that I have. So I really enjoyed that track. That's definitely a favorite. Grateful is another good joint on here, which literally is about him being thankful in spite of how bad things can get. You should remember how, in spite of how bad things can get or how bad they are, you should still be thankful for what you do have, and kind of how far you've come, and how a lot of times we don't really take the time to look back and realize how fortunate we are, because we're so busy focused on the negative all the time. So I thought that's a really dope track. That's another favorite. Product of My Environment. I like this track pretty much because I feel like out of all the tracks, this one, in terms of production, I kind of like how dark it is, and I feel like this beat kind of bangs a bit harder than the rest of the album. So that became a favorite just for me, because I feel like this was one of the moments where I did feel like the the pace of the album, the beat it was different. It was still kind of moody, but I don't know, to me it was just a little darker, but like it banged harder than the rest of the album. So it was like that switch up that I kind of wanted, that I wish was happened a bit more, but that's why I enjoyed that track. I really enjoyed the production. I like how that beat just kind of banged harder. I love how he was flowing on there. So that's another favorite. Perfect Imperfections, where he literally, a song about kind of just accepting who you are and being proud of who you are in spite of, your flaws and your downfalls and things like that. And I love the closing track, 555. I like the line, teeter-totter through peace and drama, feeding water while my spirit ego wanders. I be chill pilling, yet hardly I'm somber. Caught between the art of war and Dalai Lama. And I thought that was just a good way. I feel like that one line, I feel like I probably butchered a few of those words, but I feel like that one line kind of encompasses a lot of what this album is about. Literally, like, yeah, peace and drama, caught in between the art of war and Dalai Lama. Like, just that whole struggle of, on one side I want to do this, but on the other side I want to do this. Which way should I go? So yeah, man, that was a really just good closer to the album. I guess real quick before I close up, I also want to talk about the skits on this album, because that was the only other gripe I had on this album, and it wasn't that I didn't like the skits, but I think my only other problem with the skits were the way this album flows. A lot of times you'll get a skit, a song, a skit, a song, a skit, a song. And I guess for me, especially like that first time I was listening to it, I felt like I couldn't get in the groove with the songs because the skits were just coming after every track. I mean, and then some points you'll get a point where you'll get like 2 songs in a row, then a skit. I almost feel bad, like not liking, I didn't say not liking, but having a grudge with the skits, because they definitely serve a purpose. They're very much an integral part of the album. But I wish he would have maybe not had so many, and maybe spaced them out a little more. Because like I said, it just, when I'm listening to the album straight through, and I just get skit song, and it kind of took me out of the groove. I felt like I couldn't get into the groove of just enjoying the songs because the skits were just coming after every single track. I just wanted to hit a stretch where I would just get a few songs and then maybe hit me with a skit. But that's just me personally. But I get why the skits were there. Like I said, the skits are very important in terms of setting up the songs that come after them. That's pretty much a lot of how the album flows. Is the skit will be about this group, talking about a certain topic. Like I said, whether it be them talking about, like I said, guilt tripping themselves, them talking about love, them, talking about whatever, and then the preceding song, like the actual song, is pretty much like that conversation, but in song form. So I get the purpose of the skits, but I wish, in my opinion, just for me personally, that I wish he would have spread them out just a little bit more. Instead of having skit, song, maybe have skit, song, another skit, just spread them out a bit more, because it was just interrupting the flow of the album for me in those first few listens. And actually, I would say this is one of those albums that I'm really glad I didn't review this off of my very first listen, because this actually took a while for this album to grow on me. Like I said, for the first few listens, I feel like I was just kind of tuning it out, because like I said, the production was it was really low, it was really somber, and I couldn't get into it. It wasn't connecting. But the more I listened to it, and definitely the more I started focusing on the lyrics, I started to find this album a lot more enjoyable. And even as I was setting up notes to review this album, I was just going back and listening to some of the tracks. This album is it is consistently growing on me, and I'm finding it much more enjoyable than I did those first few listens. So I'm glad I gave this album time to sit with me. So I would say, yeah, for anybody out there, if you don't like this album on the first few listens, let it sit with you for a little bit. Like, and this was one of the albums for me that I had to listen to a couple times. I put it down. I went on to some other stuff. And I was like, you know what, let me come back to this and give it another shot. And then when I came back and listened to it, I was like, oh, like now it kind of clicks with me. I get it. I understand what's going on. You know, it felt different than those first few listens. I think it was just, I don't know. It could have been I might not have just been in the mood. Because like I said, I think this is a very moody album. Like, this isn't something I think you'll necessarily like throw on every day or like bang in your car every day. It's I think much more suited for just like your headphone music or something to chill, vibe out to at home when you're in that kind of, you know, introspective mood. But the album definitely did grow on me. But like I said, I can't undersell enough. I really enjoyed the content and like just the idea of this album and what the album represents. I think that's really important. I appreciate that he's an artist that's kind of furthering the talk of like mental health and things like that. And I think that's really important. So I definitely appreciate him for doing that. But like I said, the album is very well thought out. It's very personal, very open, something that I think pretty much anybody can relate to and pull from. So off that alone, I that's why I wanted to review it and recommend it, that people give this a listen, because I'm pretty sure this will be something that anybody can pull from. And I think he's still underrated. His last 3 projects, man, and I'll say this and not as a slight, as of now, and this could change because like I said, this album's growing on me. Between Search and Sylvan, Far From Familiar, and this album, this might be my least favorite out of the 3, but it's not that it's like a bad album. I think for one, Searching Sylvan just kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't think that album was going to be like as great as it was. It kind of just like blew me away. So I would say, like I said, I feel like his albums almost play out like stories. Like, I don't think if you're not a Sylvan fan, I don't think you should start with this. Go back and listen to Searching Sylvan first and just build your way up to this, because I think this album will make a lot more sense if you hear those other 2 albums first. Because a lot of themes and even like some of the stories in this album pull from those other 2 albums. So this album will make a lot more sense in context if you listen to his the other 2 he put out first. But overall, man, it's still a good project. Like I said, it took a little bit to grow on me, but I definitely find myself enjoying it more. Like I said, very relatable, very personal. Just a real like just intimate, kind of low key, kind of somber album, but it's becoming something that I am going back and revisiting more. So yeah, man, shout outs to Sylvan Lacue. Like, dude, I'm glad to see that after that whole, because I remember listening to him when he was Quest and hearing about him during like the whole That Jermaine Dupri thing, and I used to listen to some of his songs, and like I felt like for a while like he just kind of dropped off the earth, and I was like, man, whatever happened to that dude? So I'm glad to see that like he's back. He's putting out really good projects, he's putting out good content, and you know, keep grinding. Hopefully he can blow up, he can get a bit bigger. I think he's definitely a really talented artist that more people should know about. Like I said, I always appreciate people with good content. So in the end, that's how the album kind of won me over. Like, the content was kind of just able to overpower like kind of like the flaws and gripes that I had with this album. But yeah, man, Sylvan Lacue, apologies in advance. It's like all the other albums I review, I'll leave links below to any like the singles he got out, or links where you can go purchase the album. As always, support good music, man. You know, support the people who are putting out good product. So give apologies in advance to listen. Hopefully you guys will find that pretty enjoyable. And that's pretty much it as far as album reviews and movie reviews. So before I get on out of here, I'm trying to introduce a new segment, at least on my solo episodes. Just do a little quick recommendation before I leave. Recommendations could range from just a song, a movie, just any random thing I see that I would, like you guys to check out, give a look. Won't be like a full-length review, just a quick something I'll throw out there, and you guys can just go look at it and see how you enjoy it. So this week, my recommendation is actually a short film. For all my martial arts heads out there, this film is called Gong Shou Dao. You may have heard of this. Follow Jet Li on Facebook, and within like the last year, he was posting a lot about this short film. It finally came out, I want to say it was last week, the week before, sometime in February, sometime this month. It came out. I've been keeping tabs on it for a while because it involves a lot of people who I'm a fan of. So I guess real quick, Gong Shou Dao is a short film directed. The gentleman's is named Wen Zhang. It was produced by Jet Li. People in the movie, Jack Ma is the main character, but you also got Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Wu Jing, Tony Jaa, Jackie Hyung, Asoru Akanori, Zhu Shiming, and Natasha Liu Bordizo. I might be butchering that, but those are some of the names, and I was excited just to see, Donnie, Wu Jing, and Tony Jaa like all in the same movie. I thought that was pretty awesome. So that star list alone made me want to check this out. It's only like a 22-minute movie, and it's pretty much like just a good ode to Chinese martial arts. Kind of everybody just displaying their technique, so to speak. Jack Ma ends up at this, I can't remember the name of the place, but basically he just fights different masters of different disciplines. So of course you see Tony Jaa do his Muay Thai. He also fights a sumo dude in here, which is pretty awesome. So I just thought this film was pretty cool just to see it like a ode to Chinese martial arts, and it just seems like they're trying to spread like their culture and their martial arts. So I just thought it was pretty dope. Like I said, it's just a 22-minute film, something you can get through really quick. Not really like an intricate story. Like I said, it's literally just him fighting these masters of these different disciplines, and then you get a little random like funny twist at the end. But I'll leave a link below to where you guys can go check it out. They have the entire film on YouTube. Once again, the film is entitled Gong Shou Dao. That's GONG SHOU DAO, all separate words. And I will leave a link down below so you guys can go check that out. So that is my recommendation of the week. And yeah, that is pretty much it for today's episode. Got plenty of podcasts coming, more fight podcasts. So we will have we won't have a real break. I think after the next fight card, we're gonna get a break between I think it was the Cyborg and Kunitskaya fight. So there'll be a break between that one and the next one, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a break in fights, but there'll still be stuff to talk about. Even if the UFC isn't fighting, I want to say Bellator might have a card in between them, but even if they don't, it doesn't matter. I got more albums to review. There's been a lot of stuff coming out, man. Jericho Jackson, the project with Elzai and Crisis, I've been listening to that. Black Milk Fever, a lot of music, man. Just a lot of music coming out. So always there'll be content coming out, so you guys never have to worry about that. I'm dropping like 2 episodes a week, something crazy like that still. So yeah, just be on the lookout. More content always coming every week. Trying to give you guys something to listen to every week, whether it be music or me and the Anti-Cool covering fights. We appreciate the support. Make sure you guys share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As always, the podcast can be listened to on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes. If you're on iTunes, please rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Also, check us out on Google Play. Send emails to dojotalkpodcast@yahoo.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Serial Sensei on Twitter. And if you want to hit us up on Facebook, just go to the Dojo Talk Podcast Facebook page, and you can find us there as well. So that has been it. This has been another edition of the Dojo Talk Podcast. I am your host, Serial Sensei, and hopefully I will catch you guys soon. Peace.